Focusing on self-reliance as the new mantra for the nation, the Prime Minister called these tough times an opportunity to build India, to rebuild India and become a true global leader in the 21st century. To talk more about this and the road ahead, we have with us Deepak Sood, who is the Secretary General of Assocham. Mr. Sood, thank you for joining us on this broadcast. A very, very important announcement which was made by the Prime Minister himself last night. Details of the economic package will be shared by the Finance Minister today at 4 p.m. What do you make of this mega announcement, Mr. Sood, to begin with?
So I think we have been in engagement with the government and in the industry, and the way the business has been impacted because of this COVID disease, which is the virus which is going around. I think it is extremely important that a stimulus is given at this point in time. While we wanted it much earlier, but nevertheless, it's not late as well. It's important that money is given in the hand of people, money is given in the hands of the industry. And let's start working back to get the economy back on its feet.
Also, Mr. Sood, I want to take in a word from you. The Prime Minister yesterday laid special emphasis on the fact that we must go local. We must promote local businesses. Also spoke of how, we've been manufacturing lakhs and lakhs of PPEs, medical supplies, masks. So in that sense, that's where we're headed. A word on what do you make of that? Going local, because the Prime Minister's vision is clear. He says global was also once local.
So the very broader sense one has to look at is what has really happened with this entire thing. The entire supply chain broke down, whether it was local or international. All efficient companies actually saw more problems to their supply chains and reaching the customers and the markets. Now, the moment you say localized supply chain, it does not really mean only to say that only Indian-made products or Indian products is what he's trying to say. Obviously, like for example, he made a comment on khadi. I think it is important that we all kind of consider our own grown stuff before we choose anything else. However, it is also an opportunity to tap in the global business that is going to relocate. You see, risk averseness is what is business always likes. They like policy consistency and they like to de-risk the entire operations. So, for example, if there's a garment manufacturer or a garment buyer across the world, he buys about 60% from a country like China. Would they like to continue to do that? No, they would like to outsource it to somewhere else. They would like to de-risk the whole process. And therefore, it becomes extremely important for India to start making those things here. And I'm not talking just this, I'm talking shoes, I'm talking televisions, I'm talking LED screens. And therefore, any company of the world is more than welcome to come to India and is considered to be a global company, which is a local company. So our resource, our demand, our people, our jobs should be ours. And our markets are benefited because of that.
Yes. And Mr. Sood, if I could ask you, what are your expectations of this mega package that has been announced? Because the Finance Minister has said that everyone will be taken care of as far as this package is concerned, be it a hawker, a middleman, taxpayer. So everyone's concerns will be looked at. Do you think big industries might have to fend for themselves?
So I don't think it is going to be a big industry, but I think what he did mention is that there is a street hawker, the smallest of the smallest and the biggest of the biggest. Everybody is interdependent and interconnected. So you really cannot isolate anybody out of the whole jigsaw puzzle. So a small-scale industry, medium-scale industry, somewhere feeds into the large-scale industry. And the large-scale industry depends on the medium and small-scale industry, and its labor and its people also depend on those small street hawkers. I guess I buy vegetables from a departmental store, but there are a lot of people who buy it from streets, from small stores. So there is a huge interdependence lying all over. I think it's not about just the money and liquidity, which is obviously that is going to get pumped in, but I think it is on the demand side which is really collapsed. It is the fear psychosis, the fear factor, which is actually making people run away from consuming. And therefore, the most important thing is to give money in the hands of people so that this fear of uncertainty, while the virus is going to live with us, goes away and they are able to start really coming back to their normal lives. And I think that's the key thing which I think that the government should do, is to ensure there's enough money in the hands of people so that the demand comes back. And if demand comes back, everything else will fall in place sooner than later.
Yes. Because the finance minister, said it that this is not just a financial package, but this is a reform stimulus. That's how we're supposed to look at it. But as for Prime Minister, explaining his vision, the 5 pillars that he spoke of to build a self-reliant India, what do you have to say about that?
So for us to be globally competitive, when I say globally competitive, I don't say that our Indian industry is not competitive. We are competitive in a lot of spaces, but there are a lot of areas that we need to work at. So if we want to export, there are a lot of factors that make us non-competitive. For example, transaction cost, our logistics cost, our capital cost. We are talking about labor reforms. I think these are the times when things really go bad, is when you really need to redecide yourself, restart, reboot yourself, and make all these reforms that are possible and make yourself globally competitive. If you want to harness the traffic that is going to move out from various countries and supply chains are going to move out from various places, I think we will have to take all those reforms now, whether it is on direct taxation, indirect taxation, labor reforms, land, judicial. This is the time now. And most important is, this is the time for us to ensure that our states, ease of doing business is something which is extremely important, and states have a huge role to play. Companies do not have the wherewithal, wait and that they're going to buy land and they're going to construct, get permissions. People want plug and play facilities. They should be able to scale up, scale down, depending on how the markets are. Markets are cyclical in nature. They are seasonal in nature. You can't have cost in a system and be competitive. So all these factors need to be looked at.
Absolutely. And also, as for Prime Minister's vision of, how looking at this particular period as not a time of crisis, but a window of opportunity. That's what the Prime Minister said. Do you think that approach could certainly help us over a period of time?
So once you see what you see around yourself, there's a lot of opportunity is clearly visible. So when I say opportunity, look at the penetration of various products and consumption that we have in India. It's high. So, for example, if I have to look at how the world spends money and how we are spend of per capita of $2,000 that we have in India, how do we spend? It's 75% of this demand. This money is what? It's basic demand. It's a critical demand. It's not a discretionary spend that we have. So people will be able to come back and spend and get back this demand coming back very, very soon. And I think. Obviously, this is still unfolding, and I really can't give you a concrete answer how long and what it will be. But I'm very, very hopeful. And this opportunity, we will be able to tap with the manufacturing that we have here. There will be additional things that will come in. The businesses will have to redesign themselves. People like hotels, people like travel tourism may see a little longer than the others to come back. Value-added products, premium products may take a little much longer. But I think the basic demand and that is going to come back very, very fast.
All right, Mr. Sood, I'm going to leave you with this one last question. As for the announcement is concerned, 20 lakh crore, has it met everyone's expectations, industry-specific expectations in general? Because we're looking at a 10% of the total GDP, and it is more than what China has come out with. So what's your assessment on that?
So very broadly, what they've done is they have already brought in this 20 lakh crores is going to factor in a lot of things that have already been done. So it's a sigma of all that. That's number one. I think there is 7.5 to 8 lakh crores that is lying with the RBI on the reverse repo side. So I think that's how we spend that money, how we bring it back into the industry, I think that's very, very important. The balance of that money, I think there is a lot of money which lies as an outstanding still with public sector units, with public utilities, with the state governments, municipal corporations, railways, and so on and so forth. So I'm not getting into specific names, but some may have cleared, but there's a lot of money still that remains to be paid to the industry, whether it is GST refunds or income tax refunds. So I think we should very quickly clear this money, and this money which the stimulus is being talked about, government should reduce its liability, and through that liability reduction, there will be a lot of liquidity that will come in the hands of the industry. That's number one. Number two, I think the demand is going to come, but it is not going to come tomorrow. So people will take time. Things will, the moment the lockdown opens or phased opening that we are talking about, there will be a lot of pent demand which will come through. But this is not a long, sustainable demand that one is talking about. So government will have to spend a lot of money on infrastructure. And I think the government has said 1,10,000 crores is what Mr. Gadkari had mentioned to us when he was with us, is what he is talking. But I think he's doing it now 3x or 4x. Now that's where jobs, core industry, creation of infrastructure, whether it is in city, outside city, is going to help. And this also includes a lot of industrial areas and clusters, plug-and-play facilities, which will also attract a lot of foreign investors. So it's a sum total of every activity which would be able to help you tide through this.
Yes, and perhaps we will be able to discuss this in greater detail once further announcements are made by the Finance Minister herself. We leave it at that. Mr. Sood, thank you so much. Appreciate you joining us and speaking to us.
Thank you very much. Pleasure talking to you.